Sarah Mitchell rushed through the automatic doors of the downtown medical center, her heart pounding with worry. The phone call from her daughter's school had come at the worst possible time. Emma had fallen during recess and needed to be picked up immediately. The school nurse said it wasn't serious, but Emma was crying and asking for her mom. The rain was coming down hard, turning the parking lot into a maze of puddles and shadows. Sarah clutched her purse tighter and looked around desperately for her rideshare. The app on her phone showed the car should be right here, but with the storm and poor lighting, every dark sedan looked the same. She spotted a black Honda Accord with the license plate that looked close to what she remembered. Without thinking twice, she yanked open the back door and slid inside, immediately pulling out her phone to text the school. "Please hurry," she said without looking up. "My daughter is waiting for me at Lincoln Elementary. She had an accident, and I need to get there as fast as possible." The driver turned around slowly, and Sarah finally looked up from her phone. The man behind the wheel was not her ride-share driver. He was a tall black man in his 40s, wearing a hospital uniform with a name tag that read Marcus Johnson, pediatric nurse. His kind eyes showed concern and confusion. "Ma'am, I think you might have the wrong car," Marcus said gently. "But did you say your daughter is hurt?" Sarah's face turned red with embarrassment. She looked around the car and realized her mistake immediately. This car was too clean, had family photos hanging from the rearview mirror, and smelled like coffee instead of the usual rideshare car fresheners. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Sarah stammered, reaching for the door handle. "I thought you were my Uber driver. I'll get out right now." But Marcus held up his hand. "Wait a minute. Your daughter is at Lincoln Elementary? That's where my son David goes to school. Is she okay?" Sarah paused, her hand still on the door. "The nurse said she fell and might have hurt her arm. She's scared and crying. I need to get there, but my rideshare driver seems to be lost in this storm." Marcus looked at his watch and then at Sarah's worried face. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at the children's hospital and was exhausted, but something in Sarah's voice reminded him of his own ex-wife when she used to call about their son. "Lincoln Elementary is 15 minutes from here," Marcus said. "I was heading home anyway, which is in that direction. How about I give you a ride? I know you don't know me, but I'm a nurse, and I understand what it's like when your child needs you." Sarah hesitated for a moment. Her mother's warnings about getting into cars with strangers echoed in her head. But then she looked at Marcus's hospital ID badge, the family photos in his car, and most importantly, the genuine concern in his eyes. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to impose, and I know this is really weird." Marcus smiled and turned back toward the front. "My name is Marcus Johnson. I've been a pediatric nurse for 15 years, and I have a son at the same school your daughter attends. Sometimes life puts people in the right place at the right time." As Marcus pulled out of the parking lot, Sarah noticed how carefully he drove, despite the urgency of the situation. He kept his hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel and maintained a safe speed even though she had expressed how worried she was. "Tell me about your daughter," Marcus said as they waited at a red light. "How old is she?" "Emma is 7, Sarah replied, relaxing slightly. "She's in 2nd grade. She's usually very careful, but the playground equipment can be slippery when it's wet like this." "David is 8 and in 3rd grade, Marcus said. "He's had his share of playground accidents too. Kids that age think they're invincible. Last month, David tried to swing from the monkey bars in the rain and ended up with a scraped knee and a bruised ego." Sarah found herself smiling despite her worry. "Emma loves the monkey bars too. She's been practicing all summer to make it across without falling." The conversation helped calm Sarah's nerves, but she couldn't help noticing the small details in Marcus's car that told a story. There was a small cross hanging from the rearview mirror next to the family photos. A coffee cup from a local diner sat in the cup holder with "World's Best Dad" written on it. The back seat had a booster seat that was clearly well used but well maintained. "Do you mind me asking what you were doing at the medical center?" Marcus asked as they turned onto the street leading to the school. "I was visiting my mother," Sarah explained. "She's recovering from surgery. I try to see her every few days, but today's visit ran longer than expected because she was having a hard day." Marcus nodded understandingly. "That's tough. Taking care of family while raising kids is like juggling flaming torches sometimes." "Exactly," Sarah said, surprised by how easy it was to talk to this stranger. "Some days I feel like I'm failing at everything." "I doubt that," Marcus said as they pulled into the school parking lot. "The fact that you dropped everything to rush here when your daughter needed you tells me you're doing just fine." Sarah looked at the school building and felt her anxiety return. Through the windows, she could see other parents picking up their children from the after-school program. The rain was still coming down, and she realized she didn't have an umbrella. Marcus seemed to read her mind. He reached into the back seat and pulled out a large black umbrella. "Take this," he said. "I'll wait here to make sure you and Emma get safely to your next ride." "You really don't have to wait," Sarah said, but Marcus was already getting out of the car to come around and open her door. As they stood in the rain, Marcus opened the umbrella and held it over Sarah. "I insist," he said. "Besides, I want to make sure Emma is okay. Professional habit." They walked toward the school entrance together, and Sarah realized that what had started as an embarrassing mistake was turning into something else entirely. This stranger had gone out of his way to help her, asking for nothing in return. The school secretary, Mrs. Patterson, looked up as they entered. She knew Sarah well and greeted her with relief. "Oh, Sarah, we're so glad you're here. Emma has been asking for you. She's in the nurse's office with Ms. Rodriguez." Sarah turned to thank Marcus, but he was already walking beside her toward the nurse's office. "I'd like to take a quick look at Emma's arm if that's okay," he said. "Sometimes a second opinion helps, especially from someone who deals with pediatric injuries all day." When they reached the nurse's office, Emma was sitting on a small cot, with her left arm cradled against her chest. Her face was streaked with tears, but she perked up when she saw her mother. "Mommy!" Emma cried out, reaching for Sarah with her good arm. Sarah rushed to her daughter's side and gently hugged her. "I'm here, sweetheart. Are you okay? What hurts?" Ms. Rodriguez, the school nurse, stood up from her desk. "She took a tumble from the climbing structure. Her arm is a bit swollen, but I don't think anything is broken. I was going to suggest you take her to urgent care just to be safe." Marcus stepped forward and introduced himself to Ms. Rodriguez, showing his hospital ID. "I'm a pediatric nurse at Children's Medical Center. Would it be all right if I took a quick look? I was giving Sarah a ride to the school." Ms. Rodriguez nodded appreciatively. Healthcare professionals often helped each other out, especially in situations involving children. Marcus knelt down beside Emma's cot and spoke to her in a gentle voice. "Hi there, Emma. My name is Mr. Marcus, and I'm a nurse who helps kids feel better. Your mom asked me to take a look at your arm. Is that okay with you?" Emma looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly, then back at Marcus. "It really hurts," she said in a small voice. "I bet it does," Marcus said sympathetically. "Can you show me exactly where it hurts the most?" With gentle hands and practiced expertise, Marcus carefully examined Emma's arm. He asked her to move her fingers, which she could do without too much difficulty, and gently felt along her forearm and wrist. "The good news is that I don't think anything is broken," Marcus said to Sarah, "but there's definitely some swelling and bruising. I'd recommend getting an X-ray just to be completely sure, but based on what I'm seeing and feeling, this looks like a bad sprain." Emma looked up at Marcus with curious eyes. "Are you a doctor?" "I'm a nurse," Marcus explained. "I work with doctors to help children who are hurt or sick. I've seen lots of arms that look just like yours, and most of them get better really quickly." "How quickly?" Emma asked. Marcus smiled. Well, if you follow the doctor's instructions and rest your arm properly, you'll probably be back to swinging on those monkey bars in a few weeks. Sarah felt an enormous weight lift off her shoulders. While she still planned to take Emma for an X-ray, having a medical professional's initial assessment helped calm her fears that something was seriously wrong. "Thank you so much," Sarah said to Marcus. "I can't believe how kind you've been to complete strangers." Ms. Rodriguez prepared a sling for Emma's arm and gathered the incident report for Sarah to take with her. As they prepared to leave, Marcus walked with them back toward the main entrance. "Where are you planning to take her for the X-ray?" Marcus asked. "I was thinking the urgent care center on 5th Street, Sarah replied. Marcus shook his head. "That place usually has a long wait, especially on days like this when the weather is bad. If you don't mind a suggestion, Children's Medical Center has a much shorter wait time for pediatric injuries, and they're specifically equipped for kids Emma's age." Sarah considered this. Children's Medical Center was where Marcus worked, and it made sense that he would know their current wait times. "That sounds like a good idea," she said. "But how will we get there? I still need to figure out transportation." Marcus checked his watch again. His shift had ended hours ago, and he had planned to go home to a quiet evening and dinner with his son. But looking at Emma's pale face and Sarah's worried expression, he made a decision that would change all of their lives. "I'll take you there," he said simply. "I know the staff in the emergency pediatric unit. I can make sure you get seen quickly and by the best people." Sarah started to protest. "Marcus, you've already done so much. I can't ask you to spend your entire evening helping us." "You didn't ask," Marcus pointed out. "I'm offering. Besides, David is at his grandmother's house tonight, so I don't have anywhere urgent to be." As they walked back to Marcus's car, Emma between them, Sarah realized that something remarkable was happening. A simple mistake had led to an encounter with someone who was going far beyond what any reasonable person would do to help strangers. The rain was starting to lighten up as Marcus helped Emma into the back seat and adjusted the booster seat to fit her smaller frame. He showed her how to buckle her seatbelt with one good arm and made sure she was comfortable. "Are we going to the same hospital where you work?" Emma asked as Marcus started the car. "Yes, we are," Marcus replied, "and I'm going to make sure the doctors there take really good care of you." As they drove through the city toward Children's Medical Center, Sarah found herself studying Marcus in the rearview mirror. He occasionally glanced back to check on Emma, asking if she was comfortable or if her arm was hurting more. He pointed out interesting buildings and told Emma funny stories about his son David to keep her distracted from the pain. "Mr. Marcus," Emma said during a lull in conversation, "why are you being so nice to us?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering how to answer a 7-year-old's question about human kindness. "Well, Emma," he finally said, "sometimes when people need help, other people are supposed to help them. That's how the world is supposed to work. Your mom needed help getting to you, and you need help feeling better. So I'm helping." "But you don't even know us," Emma pointed out with the logical clarity that children often possess. "That's true," Marcus agreed. "But that doesn't mean I can't help. Some of the best things that happen to us come from people we haven't met yet." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes at the simple wisdom in Marcus's words. She thought about all the times she had walked past people who might have needed help, all the opportunities she had missed to make a difference in someone else's day. They were almost at the hospital when Emma spoke up again. "Mr. Marcus, do you think my arm will be okay?" "I think your arm is going to be just fine," Marcus said confidently. "And you know what? I bet you're going to be even more careful on the playground from now on." Emma giggled. "My mom always tells me to be careful, but sometimes I forget." "All kids forget sometimes," Marcus said. "That's part of being a kid. The important thing is learning from our mistakes." As they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Sarah realized that her embarrassing mistake might have been the best thing that happened to her in a very long time. Marcus parked his car in the staff section of the hospital parking garage and turned off the engine. The rain had finally stopped, but the air still felt heavy with moisture. Sarah helped Emma out of the back seat, being careful not to bump her injured arm. "This place looks really big," Emma said, staring up at the tall hospital building with wide eyes. "It is big," Marcus agreed, "but don't worry. I know exactly where we need to go, and there are lots of nice people here who help kids feel better." As they walked through the main entrance, Sarah noticed how different the atmosphere became around Marcus. The security guard at the front desk waved and called out, "Hey, Marcus! Working late again?" "Not working tonight, Joe," Marcus called back. "Just helping some friends." The word friends struck Sarah as interesting. They had known each other for less than 2 hours, but somehow it felt natural when Marcus said it. They took the elevator to the 3rd floor, where the pediatric emergency department was located. The walls were painted in bright, cheerful colors with cartoon animals and rainbow designs that were clearly meant to make children feel more comfortable. "Mr. Marcus," Emma said as they walked down the hallway, "do you know all the doctors here?" "I know most of them," Marcus replied. "I've worked here for a long time, and we all work together to help kids like you." When they reached the reception desk, Marcus spoke with the woman behind the counter. "Hi, Janet. This is Emma Mitchell and her mother, Sarah. Emma has a possible sprain that needs an X-ray." Janet looked up from her computer and smiled warmly at Emma. "Well, hello there, sweetie. That's a pretty sling you have there. Let's get you checked in so we can take a look at that arm." Sarah was amazed at how quickly the check-in process went. Usually, emergency room visits involved long waits and complicated paperwork, but having Marcus there seemed to smooth everything out. "Dr. Chen is working tonight," Janet told Marcus quietly. "She's excellent with kids Emma's age." "Perfect," Marcus said. "Sarah, Dr. Chen is one of our best pediatric emergency physicians. Emma will be in great hands." They were called back to an examination room within 10 minutes, which Sarah knew was practically unheard of in most emergency departments. The room was decorated with colorful murals of underwater scenes, complete with friendly fish and dolphins. "I like the fishies," Emma said, momentarily distracted from her arm pain. Dr. Chen knocked on the door and entered with a bright smile. She was a petite woman with kind eyes who immediately knelt down to Emma's eye level. "Hello, Emma. I'm Dr. Chen. Marcus told me you had an adventure on the playground today." Emma nodded seriously. "I fell off the climbing thing and hurt my arm. Mr. Marcus says it's probably not broken, but we need to take pictures to be sure." "Mr. Marcus is a very smart nurse," Dr. Chen said. "He's helped me take care of lots of children with hurt arms. Should we see what those pictures show us?" While Dr. Chen examined Emma's arm, Marcus stepped out into the hallway with Sarah to give them some privacy. They stood near a large window that overlooked the city, now twinkling with evening lights. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done," Sarah said. "This whole day could have been so much worse if you hadn't helped us." Marcus shrugged modestly. "I'm just glad I was in the right place at the right time. Or maybe Emma and you were in the right place at the right time." Sarah studied Marcus's face in the soft light from the window. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure," Marcus said. "Why did you become a pediatric nurse? It must be hard sometimes seeing children in pain." Marcus was quiet for a moment, looking out at the city lights. "When I was Emma's age, I spent a lot of time in hospitals. I had severe asthma, and there were many nights when my mother had to rush me to the emergency room because I couldn't breathe." Sarah felt her heart clench with sympathy. "There was one nurse," Marcus continued, "a woman named Patricia Williams, who always seemed to be working when I came in. She never made me feel scared or embarrassed about being sick. She would tell me stories and make me laugh even when I was struggling to breathe. She probably doesn't even remember me, but she saved my life in more ways than one. Did you ever tell her how much she meant to you? Sarah asked. Marcus smiled. Actually, yes. About 10 years ago, I tracked her down. She had retired by then, but I found her address and wrote her a letter. She wrote back and said that helping kids like me was the reason she became a nurse in the first place. We still exchange Christmas cards. Their conversation was interrupted when Dr. Chen opened the examination room door. Good news, she announced. The X-rays show no fractures. Marcus was right. It's a moderate sprain, but nothing is broken. Sarah felt relief flood through her body. So she'll be okay? She'll be fine, Dr. Chen assured her. We'll wrap the arm properly, give you some instructions for home care, and she should be back to normal activities in about 3 weeks. Emma appeared in the doorway, looking much more cheerful. She was wearing a professional medical wrap instead of the makeshift sling from school. Look, Mr. Marcus, she said, holding up her wrapped arm. Dr. Chen says I get to wear this for 3 whole weeks and then I'll be good as new. That's wonderful news, Marcus said, crouching down to examine the wrapping. Dr. Chen did an excellent job. You're going to heal up perfectly. As Dr. Chen went over the care instructions with Sarah, Marcus entertained Emma by showing her some of the equipment in the room and explaining what each thing was used for in simple terms that she could understand. This machine takes the pictures of bones, he explained, pointing to the X-ray equipment. And this light helps doctors see into ears and mouths to make sure everything looks healthy. Do you use this stuff every day? Emma asked. Almost every day, Marcus said. I help doctors take care of children who are sick or hurt, just like Dr. Chen helped you tonight. When all the paperwork was finished and Emma had been given a colorful sticker collection by Dr. Chen, they prepared to leave the hospital. Sarah realized she still had the problem of getting home, since her original rideshare driver had probably given up on finding her hours ago. I can call another rideshare, she told Marcus as they walked back toward the elevator. Marcus checked his watch. It was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. It's pretty late, and with this weather, you'll probably wait a long time for a car. Why don't I drive you home? I promise I won't make you feel guilty about it this time. Sarah laughed, remembering how reluctant she had been to accept his help earlier. Okay, but only if you let me buy you dinner. It's the least I can do after everything you've done for us today. That's not necessary, Marcus protested. Mr. Marcus, Emma chimed in, my mom makes really good spaghetti. You should come eat with us. Marcus looked surprised by the invitation. I wouldn't want to impose on your evening. You wouldn't be imposing, Sarah said firmly. Besides, Emma's right about the spaghetti, and I think I owe you at least one home-cooked meal. As they drove through the city toward Sarah's neighborhood, Emma chattered excitedly from the back seat about her hospital experience. She was proud of her professional wrap and couldn't wait to show her friends at school. Mr. Marcus, do you have kids? Emma asked during a pause in her storytelling. I have a son named David, Marcus replied. He's 8 years old, just a little older than you. Does he go to my school? He does. He's in Mrs. Thompson's 3rd grade class. Emma gasped with excitement. I know David Johnson. He helped me up when I fell down last week at recess. He's really nice. Sarah and Marcus exchanged surprised looks in the rearview mirror. The coincidences were starting to seem almost too remarkable to be random. David mentioned helping a younger student who had fallen, Marcus said. I didn't realize that was you, Emma. Small world, Sarah murmured, shaking her head in amazement. When they arrived at Sarah's house, Emma practically bounced out of the car despite her injured arm. The house was a modest 2-story home with a small front garden and a porch swing that swayed gently in the evening breeze. This is my house, Emma announced proudly. We have a garden in the back where my mom grows tomatoes and flowers. Sarah unlocked the front door and invited Marcus inside. The house was warm and welcoming, with family photos on the walls and children's artwork displayed on the refrigerator. "Please make yourself at home," Sarah said, hanging up her jacket. "I'll start dinner. Emma, why don't you show Mr. A. Marcus your art corner while I get things ready?" Emma eagerly led Marcus to a corner of the living room, where she had a small table covered with crayons, markers, and drawings. The walls around the area were covered with her artwork. "This is where I do my homework and make pictures," Emma explained. "I drew this one yesterday." She held up a drawing of a playground, with stick figures playing on swings and slides. Everyone in the picture was smiling, and there was a bright yellow sun in the corner. "This is beautiful," Marcus said sincerely. "You're a very good artist. I bet David would like to see this." "I could make him a picture," Emma suggested. "What does he like?" "He loves dinosaurs and soccer," Marcus said. "I can draw both of those things," Emma said excitedly, immediately reaching for a fresh piece of paper. While Emma worked on her drawing, Marcus walked into the kitchen where Sarah was preparing dinner. The kitchen was small but efficient, with herbs growing in pots on the windowsill and the warm smell of garlic and onions filling the air. "Can I help with anything?" Marcus asked. "You can sit down and relax," Sarah said firmly. "You've done enough helping for one day." Marcus sat at the small kitchen table and watched Sarah work. She moved efficiently around the kitchen, clearly comfortable in her own space. There was something peaceful about watching her cook, something that reminded him of Sunday dinners at his grandmother's house when he was a child. "This feels very domestic," Marcus said without thinking, then immediately felt embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean that in a weird way." Sarah laughed. "I know what you meant. It's nice to cook for someone other than just Emma and me for a change. We don't usually have company for dinner." "What about Emma's father?" Marcus asked, then immediately regretted the personal question. "Sorry, that's none of my business." "It's okay," Sarah said, stirring the pasta sauce. "Emma's dad and I divorced 3 years ago. He lives across the country now and doesn't visit very often. It's usually just the two of us." Marcus nodded understandingly. "David's mother and I divorced 5 years ago. She remarried and moved to another state. David stays with me most of the time and visits her during school breaks." They continued talking while Sarah finished preparing dinner, sharing stories about the challenges and joys of single parenthood. Marcus found himself opening up about things he rarely discussed with anyone, including his struggles to balance his demanding work schedule with being a present father. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding up a colorful drawing of a T-Rex playing soccer. "I finished David's picture. Do you think he'll like it?" "He's going to love it," Marcus said, admiring the drawing. "That T-Rex looks like it's about to score a goal." Dinner was a lively affair, with Emma entertaining them with stories from school and asking Marcus dozens of questions about his work at the hospital. She wanted to know everything about taking care of sick children, and Marcus answered each question with patience and enthusiasm. "Mr. Marcus, do you ever get scared when kids are really sick?" Emma asked while twirling spaghetti around her fork. Marcus considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I do feel scared, especially when children are very sick. But being scared means I care about them, and caring about them makes me work harder to help them feel better." "That makes sense," Emma said wisely. After dinner, Sarah insisted that Marcus sit in the living room while she and Emma cleaned up the dishes. Through the doorway, Marcus could hear them talking and laughing together, and he felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the good food. When they finished cleaning up, Emma brought out a board game and convinced Marcus to play with them. They spent the next hour playing and talking, and Marcus couldn't remember the last time he had felt so relaxed and content. It was getting late when Marcus finally said he should head home. Emma had been trying to hide her yawns, but it was clearly past her bedtime. "Thank you for dinner," Marcus said as Sarah walked him to the door. "And thank you for welcoming a complete stranger into your home." Thank you for being the kind of person worth welcoming, Sarah replied. As Marcus drove home through the quiet streets, he reflected on the strange turn his day had taken. He had started the morning thinking about nothing more than getting through another shift at the hospital and going home to a quiet evening alone. Instead, he had spent the day helping a woman and her daughter who had literally fallen into his life by mistake. But was it really a mistake? The more he thought about it, the more Marcus wondered if maybe, just maybe, some things were meant to happen exactly the way they did. 3 weeks later, Marcus was finishing his morning rounds at the hospital when his phone buzzed with a text message. He smiled when he saw it was from Sarah, something that had become a regular part of his day since their first meeting. Emma's arm is completely healed. The doctor cleared her for all activities. She wanted to celebrate by going to the playground after school to show everyone her brave scar from her adventure. Marcus quickly typed back, "That's wonderful news. Tell Emma that Mr. Marcus is very proud of how well she took care of her arm. David will be excited to hear she can play on the monkey bars again." The friendship that had begun with Sarah's mistaken car ride had grown into something neither of them had expected. What started as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into regular text messages, family dinners, and playdates between Emma and David. Marcus had been surprised by how easily David and Emma had bonded when they finally met properly. Despite the 1-year age difference, they had become fast friends, often playing together at the playground after school, while Sarah and Marcus sat on a nearby bench, talking about their days. That afternoon, Marcus picked up David from his after-school program and headed to Lincoln Elementary to meet Sarah and Emma. It had become their weekly tradition, Friday afternoons at the playground, followed by dinner at either Sarah's house or Marcus's apartment. When they arrived at the school, Emma was already waiting by the playground entrance with Sarah, practically vibrating with excitement. Her arm was completely back to normal, with only a small faded bruise as evidence of her accident. "Mr. Marcus!" "David!" Emma called out, running over to them. "Look, my arm is all better and Dr. Chen said I can do everything I used to do." David grinned at his friend. "That's awesome. Want to see who can make it across the monkey bars first?" "You're on," Emma replied, and the two children raced toward the playground equipment. Marcus and Sarah followed at a more leisurely pace, settling onto their usual bench where they could keep an eye on the kids while they played. "She's been talking about this all week," Sarah said, watching Emma fearlessly tackle the monkey bars. "I think that experience taught her that she's tougher than she thought she was." "Kids are incredibly resilient," Marcus agreed. "I see it at work all the time. They bounce back from things that would keep adults down for weeks." As they watched the children play, Sarah reflected on how much her life had changed in the past 3 weeks. The single-parent routine that had once felt overwhelming now seemed manageable, partly because she had someone to share the daily challenges and victories with. "Marcus," she said, turning to face him on the bench, "I need to tell you something." Marcus looked concerned. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Sarah said quickly. "It's just, I've been thinking about that day when I got into your car by mistake. I was so embarrassed and worried about Emma that I didn't really process what was happening at the time." "What do you mean?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I realized that you had every right to be upset or scared when a strange woman jumped into your car and started giving you directions. But instead of being angry, you immediately focused on helping me. And then you spent your entire evening making sure Emma was okay, even though you were exhausted from working all day." Marcus started to protest, but Sarah held up her hand. "Let me finish," she said. "I've been thinking about why you did that, and I think it says something incredible about who you are as a person. You didn't just help us because you're a nurse or because you have medical training. You helped us because you saw 2 people who needed help, and that was enough." Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching David show Emma how to do a particularly challenging climbing technique. "You know," he said finally, "I've been thinking about that day too. When you got into my car, my first thought should have been about the awkward situation or the inconvenience to my evening plans. But when I saw how worried you were about Emma, all I could think about was how I could help. What I'm trying to say, Sarah continued, is that you restored my faith in people. I had gotten so used to dealing with everything alone that I had forgotten what it felt like to have someone genuinely care about my problems. Marcus turned to look at her. You've done the same thing for me, you know. Before that day, my life was pretty predictable. Work, pick up David, go home, repeat. I had convinced myself that was enough. But having you and Emma in our lives has reminded me what I was missing. Their conversation was interrupted by David and Emma running over to the bench, both slightly out of breath from playing. Mom, can David come over for dinner tonight? Emma asked. I want to show him the new book I got about horses. That sounds like a great idea, Sarah said. Marcus, you're welcome to join us, of course. Actually, Marcus said, I had a different idea. There's a new family restaurant downtown that just opened. They have a kids' menu and activities for children. Would you like to try it together? My treat. Can we, Mom? Emma asked excitedly. Please? Sarah smiled. I think that sounds wonderful. An hour later, they were seated in a cozy booth at the restaurant, with Emma and David coloring on the paper tablecloths while they waited for their food to arrive. The restaurant had a warm, welcoming atmosphere with soft lighting and friendly staff. This place is really nice, Sarah said, looking around at the family-friendly decor. How did you find out about it? One of the nurses at work recommended it, Marcus said. She said it's perfect for families, and she was right. As they ate dinner, the children chattered about school and their friends, while Marcus and Sarah found themselves talking about more serious topics. They discussed their hopes for their children's futures, their own career goals, and their experiences as single parents. Can I ask you something? Sarah said as they shared a dessert. What made you decide to become a pediatric nurse specifically? I know you told me about your experiences as a child, but was there something else? Marcus smiled. Actually, it was something my son said when he was about Emma's age. I was working in adult medicine at the time, and I would come home stressed and tired every day. One evening, David asked me why my job made me sad all the time. What did you tell him? I told him that taking care of sick people was hard work. And he said, But Daddy, if your job makes you sad, why don't you find a job that makes you happy? Marcus laughed at the memory. It was such simple logic, but it made me realize that I wasn't in the right place. So you switched to pediatrics? I started volunteering in the children's ward on weekends, Marcus said. Within a month, I knew I had found where I belonged. Working with kids is challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. They approach healing with such optimism and bravery. Emma looked up from her coloring. Mr. Marcus, do you like your job now? I love my job now, Marcus said sincerely. Good, Emma said seriously. You should always do work that makes you happy. Sarah and Marcus exchanged amused looks. Children had a way of cutting through complicated issues with startling clarity. After dinner, they walked through the downtown area, enjoying the mild evening weather. The children ran ahead, playing a game of tag while staying within sight of their parents. This feels really natural, Sarah said as they strolled down the sidewalk, like we've all been friends for years instead of weeks. I was thinking the same thing, Marcus agreed. David talks about Emma constantly. She's been really good for him. Since his mother moved away, he's been more withdrawn. But Emma brings out his playful side. Emma adores David, Sarah said. And you. She told me yesterday that she hopes you'll be our friend forever. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face Sarah. What do you hope? Sarah felt her heart skip a beat at the serious tone in his voice. I hope the same thing Emma does. They continued walking in comfortable silence, both lost in their own thoughts about where their relationship might be heading. Neither wanted to rush into anything, especially with their children involved. But there was an undeniable connection between them that went beyond simple friendship. When they reached Sarah's car in the restaurant parking lot, the children were disappointed that the evening was ending. "Can we do this again next week?" David asked. "And the week after that?" Emma added hopefully. "We'll see," Sarah said diplomatically, but she caught Marcus's eye and saw that he was thinking the same thing she was, that this felt like the beginning of something important. As they prepared to leave, Marcus pulled Sarah aside while the children were distracted with saying goodbye to each other. "I want to tell you something," he said quietly. "That day when you got into my car, I almost didn't help you. I was tired and I just wanted to go home. But something made me change my mind, and I'm so grateful it did." "What changed your mind?" Sarah asked. Marcus smiled. "You did. The way you talked about Emma, the obvious love in your voice when you said she was scared and needed you. It reminded me of what really matters in life." "What do you mean?" "Taking care of each other," Marcus said simply. "Being there for people who need us. Making connections that matter. I had lost sight of that, but meeting you and Emma helped me remember." 6 months later, Marcus and Sarah were sitting on the same playground bench where they had spent so many Friday afternoons watching Emma and David play together. But this time, they weren't alone. David's grandmother, Marcus's mother, had joined them, along with Sarah's mother, who had recovered fully from her surgery. "I still can't believe you two met because Sarah got into the wrong car," Marcus's mother said, shaking her head in amazement. "It wasn't the wrong car," Emma piped up from where she was hanging upside down from the monkey bars. "It was exactly the right car. Mr. Marcus was supposed to help us." Sarah and Marcus smiled at each other. Emma had declared from the beginning that their meeting wasn't an accident, but destiny. And over the months, they had started to believe she might be right. Their relationship had developed slowly and thoughtfully, with both of them prioritizing their children's comfort and happiness. What had begun as friendship had gradually deepened into something more meaningful, built on a foundation of mutual respect, shared values, and genuine affection. "You know what I think?" Sarah said, watching their children play together with their usual energy and joy. "What's that?" Marcus asked. "I think sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them," Sarah said. "When we're just trying to get through a difficult day, and suddenly something wonderful falls into our lap. Or jumps into our car," Marcus added with a grin. As the sun began to set over the playground, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sarah reflected on how profoundly her life had changed since that rainy evening when she had made such a simple mistake. Getting into the wrong car had led to finding the right person, someone who had not only helped her and Emma in their moment of need, but had continued to be there for them every day since. Marcus had shown her that kindness still existed in the world, that there were people who would go out of their way to help strangers without expecting anything in return. More than that, he had shown her what it meant to build a relationship based on genuine care and respect. "Are you ready to head home?" Marcus asked as the playground began to empty of other families. "Ready," Sarah said, but she made no move to get up from the bench. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, noticing her contemplative mood. "Just feeling grateful," Sarah said, "for wrong cars, and right people, and second chances. And for daughters who know how to make friends with strangers' sons," Marcus added, watching Emma and David collect their backpacks. "And for sons who know how to be kind to little girls who fall down," Sarah replied. As they walked toward their cars, Emma skipping ahead with David, Sarah realized that what had started as one of the worst days in recent memory had actually been the beginning of some of the best days of her life. Sometimes, she thought, the universe has a funny way of putting exactly the right people in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. And sometimes, all it takes is getting into the wrong car to find your way to where you're supposed to be. The next week, Marcus surprised Sarah by showing up at her office during her lunch break with coffee and sandwiches from their favorite deli. They had fallen into a comfortable routine of supporting each other through the daily challenges of work and parenting, and small gestures like this had become part of their relationship. "What's the occasion?" Sarah asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. "No occasion," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her desk. "Just thought you might need a break. How's your day going?" As they ate lunch together in Sarah's small office, surrounded by family photos and Emma's artwork, Sarah marveled at how seamlessly Marcus had become part of their lives. He remembered when she had important meetings, celebrated Emma's small victories, and offered practical support during challenging times. "I have something to tell you," Marcus said as they finished eating. Sarah looked up, noting a nervous quality in his voice that wasn't usually there. "I've been thinking a lot lately about that night, when we first had dinner together at your house," Marcus continued. "Emma asked me if I had kids, and when I told her about David, she asked if he went to her school. Do you remember?" "Of course," Sarah said. "That's when we found out David was the boy who had helped Emma up when she fell the week before." "Right," Marcus said. "But I never told you the rest of that story." Sarah waited for him to continue. "The day David helped Emma, he came home and told me all about it. He said there was a little girl in 2nd grade who had fallen down, and he helped her up and made sure she was okay. He was so proud of himself for being kind to someone who needed help." Marcus paused, seeming to gather his courage. "When he told me that story, I remember feeling proud of him for being compassionate. But I also remember thinking that I hoped he would always be the kind of person who helps others, even when it's not convenient or expected." "He learned that from you," Sarah said softly. "Maybe," Marcus said. "But here's the thing. I had forgotten to be that kind of person myself. I was so focused on work and taking care of David that I had stopped looking for opportunities to help others. When you got into my car that night, helping you wasn't convenient. I was tired, I wanted to go home, and it would have been easy to just point you toward the right car and go on with my evening." "But you didn't do that," Sarah pointed out. "No, I didn't. And do you know why?" Sarah shook her head. "Because in that moment I heard David's voice in my head telling me about helping Emma. I realized that if I wanted my son to be kind and helpful, I needed to model that behavior. I needed to be the kind of person I wanted him to become." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "So you helped me because of David?" "I helped you because it was the right thing to do," Marcus said. "But David's example gave me the courage to do the right thing when it wasn't easy." They sat quietly for a moment, both thinking about the complex web of kindness that had brought them together. "There's something else," Marcus said. "Something I've been wanting to ask you." Sarah waited, her heart beginning to beat faster. "I know we've been taking things slowly, and I respect that. I know we both want to make sure we're doing what's best for Emma and David." "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "But I also know that what we have together is special. It's not just about the kids being friends, or even about us being friends. This feels like something that could be permanent. Something that could be the foundation for a real family." Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. "I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now," Marcus continued quickly. "I just want you to know that when I think about the future, I see all 4 of us together. I see Emma and David growing up as siblings. I see you and me building a life together, and I see all of us supporting each other through whatever comes next." Sarah reached across the desk and took Marcus's hand. "I see the same thing," she said softly. "I have for weeks now, but I was afraid to say anything." "Really?" "Really," Sarah confirmed. "Emma asked me last week if you were going to be her daddy someday. I didn't know what to tell her." Marcus squeezed her hand. "What do you want to tell her?" I want to tell her that sometimes the best families are the ones that choose each other, Sarah said. I want to tell her that love comes in many different forms, and sometimes it starts with a stranger who chooses to be kind when he doesn't have to be. And what would you tell her about us? Sarah smiled through the tears that were now freely flowing down her cheeks. I would tell her that Mommy and Mr. Marcus love each other and that we want to be a family together. Marcus stood up and walked around the desk, pulling Sarah into his arms. I love you, he said simply. I love Emma. I love the life we're building together. And I love that we found each other in the most unexpected way. I love you too, Sarah whispered against his chest. I love your kindness, your dedication to David, and the way you make everything feel possible. That evening, they sat Emma and David down for a serious conversation about their future as a family. Both children were excited about the possibility of becoming siblings, and their enthusiasm helped confirm that Marcus and Sarah were making the right decision. So we would all live in the same house? David asked. Eventually, yes, Marcus confirmed. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable with the changes. And we'd be like a real family? Emma asked. We already are a real family, Sarah said. We love each other, we take care of each other, and we want to be together. That's what makes a family real. 1 year later, Marcus and Sarah stood at the altar of a small church, surrounded by family and friends who had watched their unlikely love story unfold. Emma stood beside Sarah as her maid of honor, while David served as Marcus's best man. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt, focused on the commitment they were making not just to each other, but to building a family based on love, respect, and the kind of everyday kindness that had brought them together. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, Emma piped up in a clear voice, I object to waiting any longer. Can they kiss now so we can have cake? The church erupted in laughter, and even the minister had to pause to compose himself before continuing with the ceremony. After they exchanged vows and rings, Marcus and Sarah each made a special promise to their soon-to-be stepchildren. Marcus promised to love and protect Emma as if she were his own daughter, while Sarah promised to support and encourage David as he grew into the remarkable man she knew he would become. But the most memorable moment came when Emma and David surprised everyone by standing up and reciting vows they had written for each other. I promise to share my toys and my mom with you, Emma said solemnly to David. I promise to share my dad and teach you how to play soccer, David replied, just as seriously. As the newly formed family walked down the aisle together after the ceremony, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had all started with a simple mistake, getting into the wrong car on a rainy evening when she was worried about her daughter. But as Emma had insisted from the very beginning, it hadn't been the wrong car at all. It had been exactly the right car, at exactly the right time, with exactly the right person behind the wheel. Sometimes the most important moments in life come disguised as accidents, emergencies, or simple mistakes. Sometimes the person you're meant to spend your life with is someone you meet in the most ordinary circumstances when you're not looking for love, but simply trying to get through a difficult day. And sometimes the family you're meant to have is the one that forms around a shared commitment to kindness, understanding, and being there for each other when it matters most. As they drove away from the church toward their new life together, Marcus reached over and took Sarah's hand. In the back seat, Emma and David were already planning their first official adventure as siblings. Any regrets about getting into the wrong car that night? Marcus asked with a smile. Sarah looked back at their children, then at her new husband, and felt her heart overflow with gratitude for the simple mistake that had changed everything. Not a single one, she said. Best wrong turn I ever made.